If it is true that there was a knowing effort to target specific organizations, as reported conservative organizations, that would be outrageous in the president's view, and there should be consequences.
That was White House Press Secretary Jay Carney last hour on increasing calls now for more answers over the growing IRS scandal. The tax agency admits targeting certain conservatives and other groups filing for tax-exempt status. It's not just conservative group, folks. If your mission statement is you want to make America a better place, you may have been targeted by the IRS in seeking your tax-exempt status. It's not conservative. It's just a principle. These are folks that want a tax-exempt status, like they call it 501c3 designation. Nonprofit, public charities, or private foundations that have open membership. They're not allowed to engage in political activity as their main sort of thing. They're not allowed to endorse or oppose political candidates or to donate money or time directly to these political campaigns. But they can lobby and support issue-based legislation as long as they let the IRS know. And both sides of the aisle do a ton of that. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with doing that. What is wrong is if the IRS was specifically targeting these groups for a whole lot of extra scrutiny just because it had an objection to what they stood for. Jay Sekulow is chief counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice, and Jay's client is Kevin Kookogey. He's the leader of a conservative group who says his group is among those targeted by the IRS when he tried to get status as an educational organization. I tip my hat to you, Jay, because you and Mark Levin have really been the motivating forces behind this whole thing, complaining on behalf of your clients, like Kevin, to the IRS for a long time now, before we ever had any admission, before we had any inspector general reports saying it's so, they've been doing what you said. You smelled a rat. You knew that they were up to no good. Let me start with you on it, Jay, and tell us why and how.
Well, first of all, Mark Levin's organization and Landmark Legal did a great job in getting this Inspector General report started. We've handled the individual cases. He got the Inspector General report started, so he's done a great job, and I appreciate what Mark's done and our team. But let me tell you what I'm holding in my hand. I want to put an end to a myth right now. This is a letter from the Internal Revenue Service, Megyn. This letter is from the Washington, D.C. office of the Internal Revenue Service. It's involving one of our clients in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It is signed by not just an agent, but a tax law specialist who is a lawyer with the Internal Revenue Service. So this whole notion that this is some limited, low-level staff, that is over with. This is out of Washington, D.C. So this whole narrative that the administration's putting forward, that Jay Carney keeps talking about, if the targeting happened, really, it's not an if. They've apologized for it, which, by the way, the apology is not accepted. They've apologized for targeting, so the president needs to stop the if and get to the reality here that this was a complete misuse of the Office of the Internal Revenue Service, an office that I started my career with as a tax lawyer, as a trial lawyer, a long time ago. And this is outrageous, and what our clients have been put through, years of waiting, is inappropriate, frankly unconstitutional.
Reportedly, this Inspector General's report, which we are hoping to get any day now, will say that senior IRS officials knew. They knew this was happening as early as 2011. So the initial spin from the IRS was it was low-level Cincinnati employees, and nobody knew, nobody senior levels. And now we found out it's not just Cincy, it's multiple cities, and the Inspector General's report is expected to conclude senior IRS officials knew. And indeed, the reports are now that as around May of 2012, the then commissioner of the IRS found out, and that the guy who's now the acting commissioner found out back in May of 2012. So they did know for a long time, for a year. Kevin.